Indigenous and Northern Affairs Committee to order. And we start with the acknowledgement that we're meeting on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin people. The committee is continuing its study of food security in northern communities. Once again, you should be on the language of your choice in the globe in the center of the bottom of the screen, so that interpretation can present you with the language in which you're speaking. And please speak once again slowly and clearly, and you should be on mute if you are not speaking. Joining us today is the president of Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami, Mr. Natan Obed. And Mr. Obed, please go ahead for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you everyone in this committee for inviting me. I'm Natan Obed. I am the president of Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami, the national representational organization for Canada's 65,000 Inuit. The majority of Inuit live within Inuit Nunangat, which is our homeland, which encompasses 51 communities and covers almost 1/3 of Canada's landmass and over 50% of Canada's coastline. There are 4 Inuit regions across Inuit Nunangat. The Inuvialuit in the west, Nunavut in the central and east, then Nunavik and Nunatsiavut. The last time that this committee studied northern food security issues was 10 years ago, when it looked at the transition of the federal food mail program to Nutrition North. Inuit put forward a lot of different testimony during that time, and much of it remains unchanged today. The food insecurity status of Inuit communities still stands in stark contrast to the situation seen in the rest of Canada. 76% of Inuit aged 15 or over living in Inuit Nunangat experience food insecurity. This is based on Canada's 2017 Aboriginal Peoples Survey. The regional breakdown varies slightly, but still remains that over 3/4 of Inuit suffer from food insecurity. There are many different concerns that are raised because of food insecurity that are interrelated with poverty, with the ability to practice our culture, the ability to pass on language. Food insecurity links into other issues such as education. I know that this committee has talked quite a bit and has learned quite a bit from representatives or people representing Inuit who talk about inequities that Inuit face compared to non-Indigenous Canadians. Poverty is the main driver of food insecurity in Inuit Nunangat, and it's a complex issue where the cost of living is so much higher than in the rest of Canada, while the incomes are so much lower. The median income for Inuit living in Inuit Nunangat is approximately $23,000, and the cost of living is between 2 and 3 times, depending upon the community in Inuit Nunangat, that the Canadian average is. The pandemic has further illustrated the socioeconomic inequities and infrastructure gaps that our remote communities face. And I've shared these realities with the committee recently, but today I want to emphasize that these deficits have significant impacts on our food costs, as well as the potential of our harvesting economy, local food production initiatives, and both our inshore and offshore fisheries. The pandemic has also highlighted the fragility in our own unique food supply chains. Most of our non-perishable food items are shipped through summer sea lift resupply seasons. And there are only a couple of hubs in this country where those non-perishable food items start. And the largest by far is in Montreal. So with shutdowns of economies, with concerns for the free flow of goods and services, this past season's resupply was very different and had some risk to it that then had overarching risk for the way in which non-perishable items get to our communities. We've been working through a number of our food insecurity policy areas within the Inuit Crown Partnership Committee, and specifically there is a food security working group that led to some changes to the Nutrition North program, specifically within the Harvester Support Grant, in which Inuit have accessed 28.6 million over 5 years to implement supports for traditional harvesting programs. We need to apply an Inuit Nunagat approach across all federal departments to accelerate the work of this particular Inuit Crown Partnership Committee working group. We need to understand how best to support Inuit, and especially when it comes to improving social programs, improving access to healthy foods, and also improving the ability for Inuit to practice traditional activities. Infrastructure is key in all of this as well. We have such infrastructure deficits within Inuit Nunagat, whether it's within our airports, our small craft harbors, local food storage facilities, harvesting infrastructure, or supply chain infrastructure. We need to improve all levels of our infrastructure in order to have more food secure communities.
We're at the time right there, Mr. Obed. And of course, if there's anything that doesn't get covered in the round of questioning, you can certainly submit further written testimony. We'll have time, in view of the delay in starting, for a full round of questioning for Mr. Obed with each of the parties represented in our committee, starting with Kathy McLeod for 6 minutes. Ms. McLeod, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and certainly being as we had hoped to get to, I might be sharing some of my time with our second speaker. So I guess I know that Mr. Obed was cut off a little bit. Were you heading towards some very specific recommendations that, because certainly I'd like to hear specifically what you would like to see in terms of committee recommendations.
Yes, thank you. A couple of key recommendations. One in regards to Northern Airlines and the qualification of Northern Airlines as an essential service, and make that terminology, essential service, have some terms and conditions associated with it. Also, for the Nutrition North program, to ensure that it acts as an accountable and transparent social program so that Inuit families in Inuit communities are the ones benefiting from the subsidy. Also, to make long-term sustainable investments in Inuit Nunagat specific school food programs and other local food production and local food distribution initiatives.
Okay. Thank you. And you talked about how welcome the changes to the Harvester Support Program were. And it was kind of interesting. We heard testimony from the Yukon the other day in terms of they have things like mobile abattoirs. I guess my question is, do you have any sort of local challenges in terms of sort of territorial issues that create challenges in terms of moving forward with the harvesting program?
I think that there are ongoing challenges from a regulatory perspective when we are able to harvest more food and when we are able to provide for our families. That doesn't necessarily always extend to long-term support homes or educational institutions. where there are regulations, whether they be federal regulations or provincial and territorial regulations for food consumption and food safety, that often don't take into consideration any respect for Inuit specific food preparation and considerations for food safety. That's been a huge challenge for us in producing sustainable traditional food businesses, because we get into the regulatory issues right away, where the way in which we prepare our food isn't necessarily recognized by an institutional standard.
Thank you. And certainly I've heard about that challenge before. And I think mostly I would expect it's a territorial issue. But anyway, I'll turn my time over to my colleague, Eric. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. And I'll pick up sort of on the same topic of NNC and Nutrition North. Mr. Obed, you mentioned that the program has to act more like a social program, more accountable and transparent. And in some of the testimony that we heard at our last meeting, the department officials were actually saying that that food security itself wasn't really a measure of success for that program. So I do agree with you, and I think that there definitely has to be some changes made in that respect. So I'm curious if you can expand a bit more on how you would like or how you think it might be this program might be able to be changed to be more accountable and more transparent to people living in the North.
Yes. I'll start by saying that the Nutrition North program and its predecessor, the Food Mail program, are both welcome subsidy programs for Inuit Nunagat and other parts of Canada's North, which are more expensive to operate in. And non-perishable food items cost more, largely in part because of the transportation and all the other infrastructure and cost of infrastructure, even within co-ops and northern stores within our communities. It costs more to run, so it makes sense then that items might be more expensive. But if the government of Canada is going to get into deciding what foods should be subsidized, and then subsidizing those foods in thinking about nutrition and healthy diets and healthy lifestyles of Canadians, then $70 to $80 million is spent by the federal government every year trying to provide a social program, and in many cases deciding what foods should be eaten in Inuit Nunagat communities. So there should be more self-determination for Inuit within the portion of the subsidy that is for Inuit, and that because of our food insecurity at 76%, that these funds should go to people who are food insecure. There should be a tangible, positive influence from this subsidy to those individuals who are in need of food. And a rebate at till that is just a short computation of numbers that are not in any way accountable or transparent will never allow for this program to be seen as successful. Until you solve that, there will always be Inuit in communities who do not believe that the Food Mail or the Nutrition North program is actually addressing their food insecurity needs.
Thanks, Mr. Obed. Thanks very much. Mr. Van Couverden, you have 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and Nakamik Natan, Mr. Obed, for coming back. It's nice to see you again at committee. Thank you for your statements and your witness testimony, but also thank you for the Inuit-specific food policy. I haven't read the entire thing yet, but it's been good to go through, and it's a lot to read, but it's also really, really important. I think that everybody on the committee reads it just earlier this week, we heard from other northern officials talking about their struggles. So it's wonderful to hear from you and to hear specific concerns about people living in Inuit Nunangat. The numbers, I think, need to be highlighted. Like you said, 3 out of 4, that's 3/4 of Inuit have food insecurity, which is a remarkable number. I think it bears repeating, and I think we should dwell on that. I had a good discussion recently with somebody who's working on food security across Canada, and his remarks were that the solution to hunger in Canada isn't actually food. And in the Inuit specific food policy, you talk a lot, or they talk, Inuit Taprit Kanatami talks a lot about income and housing as the leading causes of food insecurity. And you previously, in your previous visits to this committee, you've talked about the difference between subsidies and social programs. So I was wondering if you could connect the dots a little bit for the committee today in discussing the differences between subsidy and social programs and the important connectivity of income and the high cost of housing as it relates to people and hunger in the north, specifically in Inuit Nunangat. Nakamik.
Yes. I'll start by giving an example. Our median income, Inuit median income in Inuit Nunangat is 23,000. Non-Inuit living in Inuit Nunangat, that number is in excess of 95,000. So there's huge disparity between Inuit and non-Inuit within every one of our communities. Yet a Nutrition North program is need blind. So the family that has a median income that is 3 to 4 times that of another family is going to the store and getting the same subsidy for these same items. And a universal approach for a food insecurity challenge, I don't believe, if we're going to spend money, we should be spending money on anyone but those most in need. I know that there are challenges for everybody who lives in Inuit Nunangat, no matter the median income, because of the high cost of living, the high cost of housing, high cost of food. But we design social programs in all other parts of the country that are designed to ensure that there is a foundation for all Canadians, whether that's social assistance, whether it's specific programs for people with disabilities, or certain eligibility for certain portions of a population, so that there is a base level of standard of living that all Canadians can enjoy. Right now, the Nutrition North program would be an excellent program to ensure that there is a base level of food security for Inuit and Inuit Nunangat. You're already spending the money. We need it to be a targeted social program in which Inuit can benefit from directly, that there can be clear call and response for the need and then the policy intervention. Right now, it is just a universal benefit, much like in the CRA world for the Northern Residency deduction, something that everybody gets and everybody gets equally. We need something more targeted, and whether that is in addition to the Nutrition North program or if it is a rethinking of the Nutrition North program, this issue is too important, and the measure of disparity is so severe that it demands action.
Thank you for that. You used a term "need blind," which I think is really important. How would a change in the Food North program, Nutrition North program, how would that impact other people? You know, the other quarter. How would it have an impact on people who are living and working in the north? Would it like terribly inflate the cost of food and living for people who are earning a good income? Would it make it, you know, there, like you said, there are burdens on everybody that live in Inuit Nunangat, not just Inuit. how do we get around that?
Yeah, I think the key consideration in the change from the food meal program to Nutrition North was to let the markets decide pricing, and competition was meant to replace this single, Canada Post subsidy for freight. Our communities are quite small, and there usually are only 2 or 3, and sometimes even only one retailer selling food in the community. And so Nutrition North changed that landscape quite significantly. I can't tell you because I don't necessarily believe in the rebate at till numbers. So I'm not sure if that 2 liter of milk really would be $14 if there wasn't a food meal subsidy attached to it. So I'd love to be able to talk more and to understand more about what negative effects there might be for those who might not be eligible for a particular specified subsidy for those who are food insecure. But really, we don't have the accountability or transparency to understand what those costs are at this moment.
Thanks, Mr. Obed. And we go now to Madame Bérubé for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Obed. You referred to, of course, food insecurity and malnutrition, which affect Inuit communities disproportionately. And you also talked about the fact that with the pandemic at the socioeconomic level, there are impacts regarding costs and fishing. So could you explain the costs and consequences of this food insecurity, for example, in the regions of Nunavut, and other regions that have a slight difference in terms of food insecurity?
Pursuing traditional livelihoods and providing food for our families in a very traditional way is expensive. We use skidoos, we use boats in the summer. There are tremendous costs for gas and for other supplies to hunt. And so there's, in the COVID response, especially the first response in the spring when there was initial money for the Indigenous Community Support Fund, many of our Inuit land claim regions provided support for people to go on the land, to go harvest, to go spend the spring and summer on seasonal camps, to get out of communities, to decrease the risk of contracting COVID. But it also allows for the increased level of reliance on our traditional diet and increases our food security, if you will. So it's just been a big challenge for many Inuit to be able to access their traditional homelands, to harvest in our lands, and then to provide for our families and our communities in a more traditional way because of the costs associated with it. And then also the lack of income that many Inuit have to be able to support that type of lifestyle. It is an interesting dilemma, but it's one really that has its roots in colonization and the disenfranchisement and disempowerment of Inuit through the killing of dogs and dog teams, the coerced relocation into communities, the push for a wage-based economy. There's been 50 to 60 years of a push for Inuit to not rely on our own society and our own food. And we're now only trying to get that back, and subsidies are necessary, grant programs are necessary to help us do that in this space.
Vous avez parlé aussi
Earlier, you also mentioned partnerships. Can you explain to us what you've done to find partnerships in order to help the Inuit people?
Yes, well, at the ITK level, we have partnerships with our regional land claim organizations, Nunavut Tungavik, Makivik Corporation, the Nunavut Regional Corporation, and Nunatsiavut government. We work together to create our national policies and our national priorities. We actually are in the final stages of creating a national food security strategy, which hopefully we will release in the first quarter of 2021. But we also have partnerships at the community level. Sometimes it's with community-based organizations, sometimes with hunter and trapper organizations, sometimes with hamlets and different municipalities, to ensure that sometimes it's for storage space, sometimes it's for running programs, and sometimes it's for food distribution. We also work with provincial and territorial governments on food security strategies and on poverty reduction work. So depending, and you'll hear more about that in I believe, the second hour from regional leaders. But no matter what, we are trying to work with whomever is willing to ensure that we can do more for food security for Inuit Nunagat.
Merci.
Thank you. Also, when we talk about Inuit Kanatami, you said that a holistic approach is needed for food security. So what would it mean to have a holistic approach for better food security?
Food security is tied so much to education, to housing, and to health. It also ties into culture and to knowledge and passing knowledge from generation to generation. So with over 50% overcrowding in our homes, and combined with the poverty levels that we have and the food insecurity levels that we have, it's a challenge for Inuit to be able to move beyond those scenarios. Food insecurity at a household level is so complicated because you might have 11 or 12 people living in one household, and it's a challenging environment to not only to sleep and to remain healthy, but also just to be able to prepare food and to share food and to provide food for an entire family. There are a lot of challenges and consequences of those scenarios that lead to unhealthy food choices or food insecurity for certain members of a large family.
Thanks, Mr. Obed. We'll go on now for our final questioner. 6 minutes. Ms. Blaney, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Obed, for your testimony today. It was very important and helpful. My first question is, you talked about infrastructure and the infrastructure specifically related to food security. I'm just wondering, is there any sort of gap analysis of what that is, or how could the committee better understand what those gaps are and what is required to begin to fill them?
Yes, ITK recently released a report that we partnered with Deloitte on, and it's in regards to our infrastructure needs and also specific priority projects for infrastructure across Inuit Nunagat. It isn't specifically in relation to food security, but a number of the challenges that we face are holistic. So the challenge in the lack of marine infrastructure links completely with our ability to go and harvest locally, or for food distribution networks. If you think about Sealift, most communities without docks, it then complicates the resupply immeasurably, where you have to then offload to a barge, and you have to go into tidal areas, and then there have to be heavy equipment that offloads the barge and then takes that to another place before then a person can access the resupply. Think of the costs on top of the costs that already exist because of the remoteness of Inuit communities that particular lack of infrastructure causes. Also in the winter and even in the summer, not having any temperature stable refrigeration at any of our airports or most of our airports then causes any of our non-perishable food items to be at risk of either freezing or becoming contaminated in a matter of minutes in the winter, especially for freezing. So all of that money on Nutrition North, that subsidy to get to a community, if that cargo sits outside at -40 for 30 minutes, all of that money is wasted. So those are the types of challenges that we have with a lack of infrastructure.
Thank you for that. Thank you. You also talked about a lack of local food production initiatives and resources to start those initiatives. If you could just talk a little bit about that, because I hear loud and clear that getting people connected with the resources there is something that needs to be invested in.
Yes, the last couple of years, we've had a number of different breakthroughs, I would say. One, that the Harvester Support Grant within the Nutrition North Canada program will allow for regional Inuit organizations to work with communities to design food security interventions that allow for more traditional food to be accessed and to be eaten within our communities. And that not only does wonders for our food security, it also helps with the transmission of culture and then also the connections that individuals have within a community. It builds community. There are also a number of different initiatives that are happening across Inuit Nunagat from say an Arviat local gardening and community-based solutions for local food production, and then also different programs from different community-based organizations that allow for food security and cooking classes. And so there are so many things that are happening across Inuit Nunagat, but we need more investment, and we need more of a focus on community-based solutions and less of a focus really on ideas that other people might think are great for us, but things that really don't have a lot of bearing on what we would like to do.
Thank you. So my last question is just around Nutrition North. You talked several times about it needing to be a more transparent program, that this program is deciding what food goes and saying that there has to be self-determination and that the rebate is at the till and there's just not transparency, which sounds to me leading to the community not feeling that they trust the program. So I'm just wondering if you could talk about what is the solution. So when you talk about self-determination, how would that be implemented?
I think that a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle, healthy food choices, no matter what, are subjective. And Inuit society, Inuit communities may have a very specific idea about what healthy foods fit within an Inuit specific diet. And if there are tens of millions every year that are earmarked for Inuit communities, the majority of the Nutrition North subsidy services Inuit Nunagat communities. And Inuit don't control the eligible items list or then the rate of subsidy. Then it's just another program that decides for Inuit what is important to Inuit. We need to have partnership within this and real decision-making around the eligible items. We need to reimagine this program as a social program And we need to ensure that every dollar that's spent on this program goes to those who need it. I don't think that's asking too much of a social program or a federal government program. If the federal government wants to subsidize airlines or wants to subsidize retailers, then that should be something that is very specific and separate than wanting to do something about 76% food insecurity for Inuit and Inuit Nunavut.
And that just about brings us to time. Mr. Obed, regrettably, we were constrained by the technical issue. In just a couple of minutes that we have before noon, is there anything that you'd like the committee to hear? And once again, please submit any other testimony you wish in a written form. But we have you on the mic now, is there anything you'd like to conclude with before we suspend?
Well, first, apologies for the microphone issue. I pledge to figure this out on my end for the next time I'm in front of you. In regards to food security, this is completely interrelated with poverty. It's also completely interrelated with government programs and policies. And I urge the committee and you as parliamentarians within your parties to demand better accountability and transparency for a program that spends $70-odd million a year in the guise of providing nutritious, non-perishable food items to northern and remote communities. We need this program to work to alleviate food insecurity for our people. And I think that no matter who you are, that's an idea you can get behind. So I do hope that there can be breakthroughs in the way in which we think about what we spend our money on. And insofar as the Nutrition North program, there is a shining star there. And that is the idea that we can spend money for non-perishable, healthy food to reach Inuit Nunavut communities and alleviate food insecurity. It's not necessarily what's happening now, and I would love to see that happen. There's a much larger issue rather than just Nutrition North, and our food security strategy that is coming out in the new year will touch on the holistic nature of achieving food security for Inuit. And I look forward to sharing this with the committee when it is approved by our board.
Thank you so much, Mr. Obed. Thanks for joining us. We're going to suspend for just briefly while we conclude the other sound checks with our remaining guests. And so this meeting is temporarily suspended. With the committee continuing its study of food security in northern communities. And with us today by video conference are three groups of witnesses. We had the chair and CEO of Inuvialuit Regional Corporation, Dwayne Ninkaksik, who unfortunately had to leave us, but will be providing written testimony. And so for the rest, we are delighted to be able, despite the technical problems, to be able to speak to you about the situation in your communities regarding food security. Our first speaker for 6 minutes is Adami Delisle Alaku, the Executive Vice President, Department of Environmental, Wildlife and Research at Makivik Corporation. Alaku, 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm pleased to speak to you today on the topic of food security in the North, especially for Nunavik region, and on behalf of President and former Senator Charlie Watt Sr. Nunavik is an Arctic region which occupies the top third of the province of Quebec. We are north of the 55th parallel. Our region is bigger than the size of France. We have 15 communities on the shores of Hudson Bay, Hudson Strait, and Ungava Bay. Total population is over 12,000. Think of it as an island. The only way to get there is by air year-round and by ship in the summer months. Our remoteness greatly affects our food security. While southern Canada benefits from vast roads and rail networks paid by taxpayers, Inuit pay all taxes. And yet the infrastructure gaps that exist in our airport facilities and total lack of deep water ports contributes to the driving up of food prices and food wastage. Food security exists when all human beings at all times has physical and economic access to sufficient, healthy, and nutritional food, enabling them to lead healthy, active lives. Food insecurity exists when an individual or family does not have access to sufficient food. In the context of Nunavik, it is important to consider access to both traditional foods and healthy store-bought foods in improving food security. The University of Laval has conducted studies comparing the cost of living in Nunavik and southern Quebec. These revealed in 2011 that groceries cost 81% more in Nunavik compared to Quebec City. The cost of living in Nunavik research report was the result of a 16-month intensive data collection and analysis. Between January 2015 and 2016, 450 random selected households in 6 Nunavik communities on the Hudson and Ungava coast were selected for this project. The survey revealed low-income households spend a combined total of over 70% of their income on food and shelter, 43% on food, 27% on shelter. Now, if you take a look at income based on the 2016 census, median income for Inuit was just over $25,627. For a non-Inuit, it was $79,328. Inuit make less than 3 times less. Inuit make 3 times less income. So if groceries cost 81% more and income is 3 times less than in the South, it all adds up to considerable food insecurity and additional social consequences to physical and mental health. Programs such as the Nutrition North Canada help reduce the high cost of living, but it is not enough. Our region has created additional programs, which we call the Nunavik Cost of Living Reduction Measures, administered by the KRG, Kativik Regional Government, that was negotiated with the help of Makivik to go beyond the Nutrition North. There are 6 measures to help reduce cost of living: elders assistance, airfare reduction, country food community support program, household appliances and harvesting equipment program, food and other essential program, which provides rebates to between 15 to 35% of the majority of food items purchased in Nunavik. Gasoline program, 40 cents on the liter, discount on gas. The price of gas is set once a year in Nunavik. It comes by sea lift. Right now, a liter of gas costs $1.85. In Ottawa on December 8th, gas prices range from 90.9 at Costco and 94.9 at Canadian Tire. Under the cost of living reduction program, the government of Quebec committed to pay $115.8 million over the next 6 years, starting in 2019. For us, however, food from the South is only one part of the picture when it comes to food that we eat. The food that we hunt is just as important, if not more important, because it not only feeds us physically, it feeds us culturally, spiritually as well. Inuit food security includes culture, health, and wellness. And food sovereignty, our decision-making power and management over our food resources. We are members to numerous wildlife committees. In addition, Makivik has owned and operated the Nunavik Research Center based in Kuujjuaq for decades. We conduct our own research directly on country food that we eat and control this information. That's part of what we consider our food security. The new Harvester Support Grant was well received. Subsistence harvesting is vital to our food security. We need to underline, however, that at this time that this program is being rolled out, we are experiencing restrictions on polar bear, beluga, and soon caribou harvesting. The Inuit population is growing and pressures on wildlife population is high. It's vital for us to be able to access wildlife. It's also important for communities to have the capacity to become fully involved in wildlife monitoring and management. So let us talk about some of the projects that exist in our region. The BioCivic project in Inukjuak on the Hudson Bay, in collaboration with Makivik and One Drop Foundation, the RBC Foundation, and Sirivik Food Center, it has created a year-round greenhouse focused on growing traditional plants and gardening. The hydroponics container in Kuujjuaq, you may have seen the grocer on the CBC Dragon's Den. This is a shipping container, completely self-contained, designed to assist indigenous communities in remote regions, especially in the Arctic. This project provides fresh vegetables for us in Kuujjuaq. Also Kuujjuaq, we have a soup kitchen, a food box program, and elders and on the land program.
We're
In
after
Kovanetik,
time.
there is a,
I'm sorry, Mr. Elaku.
if
can
you may
conclude in a
indulge
moment?
me, I'm on my conclusion.
Go ahead.
So in Kovanetik, we have a food box program delivery in collaboration with local health center. There are family houses in Kovanetik, Kangaksuak, Salui, Kangaksualatuak, and Kuujjuaq. Most of have variety of food programs, including cooking activities, meal sharing, and food boxes for the needy. So in the conclusion, Mr. Chair and committee members, it is clear that many factors contribute to food insecurity in the region. While we appreciate programs such as the Nutrition North and Harvester Support Grant, from the federal side, you can see that this takes combined effort to address the issue. This includes the province of Quebec, Nunavik organizations working together, grassroots projects, and additional assistance from outside regions. Thank you, merci.
Thank you. Just for the knowledge of our committee and our guests, we'll have to conclude at 1 o'clock sharp for further issues not related to our committee, but there are constraints on our ability to extend the time. So next we have Mr. Johannes Lamp, the president of the Nunatsiavut government. Please go ahead for 6 minutes, Mr. Lamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Food security, background information, and key messages. Food security, by definition, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Food security exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy lifestyle. The right to adequate food is a human right. The right to adequate food is a human right affirmed in multiple human rights instruments, and the government of Canada is obligated to respect, promote, and uphold this right. The government of Canada ratified the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights in 1976, a binding international treaty that affirms the right to adequate food under Article 11. That states parties to the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to an adequate standard of living for himself and his family, including adequate food, clothing, and housing, and to the continuous improvement of living conditions. The states parties will take appropriate steps to ensure the realization of this right, recognizing to this effect the essential importance of international cooperation based on free consent. The committee responsible for monitoring the implementation of the covenant has clarified the meaning of the right to adequate food as follows: the availability of food in a quantity and quality sufficient to satisfy the dietary needs of individuals, free from adverse substances, and acceptable within a given culture. The accessibility of such food in ways that are sustainable and that do not interfere with the enjoyment of other human rights. Food insecurity rates in Nunavut. The 2014 Nunavut Household Food Security Survey found that 61.1% of Nunavut households were food insecure. In Nain, the household prevalence of food insecurity is 79.3%, and it is 83.1% in Hopedale. Rates over 6 times higher than the rate for Canada. In Hopedale, 5.6% of households reported that at some time in the past month, children within the household had not eaten for a whole day. In Nain, 13.4% of households reported this situation. 2017 Aboriginal People Survey food that 68.3% of Inuit aged 15 and over living in Nunavut experienced food insecurity when taking into account low food security, very low food security and marginal security. And we have drivers of food insecurity, which I will just point out, which are related to loss of culture and traditional skills, infrastructure, climate change, wildlife and conservation, poverty, lack of education, training and employment opportunities, costs associated with hunting and gathering, cost, quality, and availability of food. And we have different scenarios because we do a lot of research on many various types of issues, and so we do a lot of homework on issues related to Labrador Inuit and to make sure that opportunities like this will give us a chance to help you understand better of what it is that we are facing. And the other examples are small northern communities lack a suite of social support services that would typically be available in a larger urban center Services such as food banks, soup kitchens, thrift stores, and emergency shelters. And there are a few options for families seeking support for food access. Community freezers where residents can access wild foods that have been harvested and donated to the freezer exist in all Nunsiyawat communities. But the freezer stocks typically deplete quickly and supply does not keep up with the demand. Sharing networks between friends and family are strong in Nunsiyawat, and however, many households still suffer from severe food insecurity. And these are just examples of how we try to deal with food insecurity and try to help Labrador Inuit at the same time practicing our culture and traditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamp. Right on time. Exactly. Now, the president of Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated from Taloyoak, we have Mr. James Ituluk. Please go ahead for 6 minutes. You're still on. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I got it now.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank the Standing Committee for this invitation. For inviting Tungavik to speak to your committee, talk about food insecurity in Nunavut and in our communities. I wish to thank you that you are here to listen to our concerns. Thank you, Simona Anatiak. I am Simona James Ituluk, Vice President of NTI, acting president at the moment since the president is running for election. In 2017, we did a research and it showed to us that 70% were age 15 and up were food insecure, that they needed food, and they have studied the most. They are studied the most. I have, excuse me, we know that the world I thought it could.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, can we resolve that? We're getting translation and speech at the same level. Is Mr. Ituluk on the right channel?
He should have AUX1 selected as his language if he's going to be speaking in Inuktitut.
Maybe I'll do it in English. Would that be easier?
Well, you're fine as long as you've got the right channel selected. I love hearing the language.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
but you have to have the right button.
I can hear myself. That's why I. Okay.
Yeah, go to the AUX one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh.
And
nakomik namir kawung like
to get back to this, I hear myself here. No. Ricardo.
Can't hear. We can't hear.
Tusangit tugut. We cannot hear. Tusangit pugut.
Can I proceed? Sorry about that. Simona.
Okay.
I'll proceed in the English and at rates of food insecurity is at critical level. We know food insecurity directly affects individual health and well-being, as a poor nutrition is linked to the increase of chronic diseases. It lowers the learning capacity of our children, and it has a detrimental impact health, mental health. Access to nutrition foods are not just necessary for individuals' well-being, but also for achieving broader public health objectives. Food insecurity threatens our cultural integrity, our overall social stability, and has devastating effects on economic development. In the North, absolutely everyone is affected, even the food insecure. Healthy people, simply stated, perform better in all aspects of life. We all know that. As Nunavut economy develops, is too much the health of its population. The COVID-19 pandemic further revealed that the immediate need to address sovereignty of food and insecurity experienced by too many Inuit families, and highlighted the important role food programs play in our communities. When the schools are forced to close, school food programs were suddenly no longer available. This was utilized by all the students in most of the communities in Nunavut, removing the one guaranteed meal a day for many people. That's a lot. In fact, the Inuit Health Survey found that 7 in 10 Inuit kids go to school hungry in Nunavut every single day. It's complex in Nunavut. The high cost of market food and remote location, decline in some animal stocks, population increases, and changing hunting quotas contribute to the declining food security in Nunavut communities. I should say that the caribou in Baffin Island is only 255 a year for the largest population of Inuit and others in that region. We also have a quotas on beluga. We also have a quota on narwhal, and you know it's very limited. Climate change is also poses a specific threat to food security in Nunavut because of the devastating effects on the availability of wildlife. We are seeing more than ever a changing migration patterns and a reduction in caribou herds. Government of Nunavut revealed survey results in 2013 claiming southern Baffin herd had declined by 95% in the last 20 years.
Yes, Mr. Ituluk, I'm going to have to ask
Our
you.
rapidly changing environment also posing greater threat to traditional hunting practice of Inuit.
Mr. Ituluk, can you hear me?
Ice breaking up early and predictably from year to year. We risk to.
Mr. Ituluk, can you hear? This is the chair speaking. Okay. We're way over time and we're going to be finished at 1 o'clock. So I'm going to ask you to stop there. I'm going to go to our questioners and perhaps they can pick up more of your speech. Anything that you wish to, that was missed, please submit a written testimony to our committee. I'm going to ask the committee members to do 5 minutes each, which will enable us to squeeze in the first round. Mr. Melillo, can you go ahead, please? And we'll do it for 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank all of our witnesses for joining us today to talk about this as a important subject. I'd like to start with President Lamp. I've been doing a bit of reading about the situation in Labrador, and as I understand, the amount of food that is produced in Labrador is relatively low. Actually, one of the articles I was reading said it was as low as 1% of the food consumed in Labrador is actually produced there. So I'm curious if you can talk a bit about any programs or initiatives that your government has been working towards to increase capacity and harvesting capacity in your territory, and how the federal government can help with those initiatives.
Your microphone, Mr. There you
go. Thank you for your question, and most certainly, not I know, but as I said earlier, we depend on different types of programs to help us with subsidies and most certainly to try to lower food costs that Labrador Inuit have to pay at the stores, and but that may help, but it's still very costly to purchase food items at the Northern store or the other store, which is the competition, but still the food prices are pretty similar in price, and so we who are able to go shopping at these stores are able to buy most everything that we need. But I'd like to take an example of a single mother with 4 children, and who has been left by their spouse, and is trying to make all ends meet, and most certainly to try to get their children to school on time, but these children are going to school hungry, and there are breakfast programs happening in Nunavut. But again, you have to get up early in the morning to make that breakfast program, and with transportation, without a bus, being in Nunavut, these children, some have to walk 2 kilometers to school, and to see children trying to make it to school at minus 30 and a big snowstorm is very hard to see, and so we are trying to help our kids of school age and their single parent mothers, and at the same time we do have community freezers to help community residents to go in and pick up Arctic char or seal meat. And this had to happen because our main staple of food, the Georgia caribou herd, was banned 13 plus years ago. And so our main staple has not, come back. And so it is just one of the things that, or major things that have made food insecurity a lot harder than it has been. But we hope that the Georgia caribou herd will come back.
Thanks very much, Mr. Lim.
There's also food banks that those who need food can go to. But again, like
well, we're right at time, Mr. Lamp. I'm sorry to have to interrupt. We're right at time and we're rushing toward a 1 o'clock deadline. So our next questioner for 5 minutes is Yvonne Jones. Ms. Jones, go ahead, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you, President Lamb, President Italuk, and my good friend Adami for your presentations this morning. It's always good to hear each of you speak, and I know that this is a topic that you could talk for many hours at length on because you're living it every single day. You know it better than anyone that I know. I'm going to just ask one brief question because, like all of my colleagues that are on this panel today, we wish that we could ask you many, many questions. And I don't know how the chair feels, but I would really welcome the opportunity to invite you back to our committee because I think your perspective is going to be very important to this committee as we determine our recommendations to the federal government going forward. So I make that suggestion. During COVID-19, during the pandemic, I know the government of Canada did do allocations that were Inuit specific. They were allocated to each of the Inuit governments in Canada. A lot of it was geared towards food security and heat security. How did you find that benefit and that program? And is this something that you could see going forward that would make a huge difference in your communities in meeting food insecurity for people on low income? Please feel free to start, whoever wishes to do so.
Thank you, Yvonne. And certainly a question that is important for MPs of Canada to understand, and more certainly important that if Canada is, going to be responsible, that it will not stop right here and now, but continue to look at the food insecurity question and many questions that even our children, and our grandchildren are asking their parents and their grandparents why it is that they cannot afford, to get what other kids are able to get. And certainly at this time of the year where the season is supposed to be a happy time, and our children and our grandchildren are going hungry and not being able to, help their single mother, and more certainly we're, we are doing all that we could, and COVID-19 support is, a godsend, and most certainly important to Inuit across Inuit Nunavut, and so we appreciate that. We fully appreciate what Canada is doing, and we are into our second round of support from COVID. We had to suspend the support for some time, where we had to review were we doing this right, and were we doing enough, and how should we change what we were doing, and because we were looking at a cutoff of how much people made, and was that cutoff too low, and did we have to raise that cutoff of what people made annually, and so we had to review the COVID support that we were doing in Nunavut, and so and people, when we suspended the support, were crying, they were asking why it was cut off, and why it was suspended. But now we have put it back on, and certainly with winter coming on, and not having the caribou, and not being able to, and then like the single mother having to decide whether they have to pay the light bill or get food, or get the heating for their
Yes.
children.
Yes.
So these questions are very important. Not coming from leaders across the nation, but from individuals who
Yes.
are living.
Mr. Lamp, I have to interrupt because we're going to go to our next questioner, Madam Berube, for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Oui. Ma question a voix à
Yes, my question.
l'élaboration d'une politique régionale en matière de sécurité alimentaire. Ma question est, pouvez-vous nous parler des recommandations qui découlent de cette rencontre?
I didn't get the translation. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the translation.
There was
We didn't have it selected on the translation.
Merci.
My question to Mr. Alaku. So in December 2019 in Kuujjuarapik, the fourth work session was held to develop a food security policy in Nunavik, to develop a regional policy on food security. My question is, could you please talk to us about the recommendations arising out of that meeting? Ms. Berube, I don't have all the recommendations that were set, but there were a lot of recommendations which we have personally in terms of the infrastructure. We have reached a point where our port is not sufficient. What we have is not sufficient to fulfill the demand. We transitioned from twin otters to 748s and then to Dash 8s, 100. And now we have Dash 8, 100, 300s, but it no longer fulfills the demand. We need to enlarge our airports. We don't have a port sufficient to facilitate the unloading of vessels during the summer period when products can be sent. But personally, I don't have the report in front of me, so I cannot give you the answer you're asking for. But we do have a lot of recommendations about what more can be done in terms of assistance from the federal government. Could you please tell us about the recommendations that you're proposing? So what we're proposing is that if we can enlarge our infrastructure, we have considerable gaps. My internet barely works. Sometimes I can't hear everything. We don't have fiber optics, as I mentioned. For the airports, if we can enlarge our airports, then we would be able to have Q400s, which are aircraft that are bigger, which can carry more cargo and more people. And at the moment, we have shortcomings in our infrastructure. So these are the kinds of recommendations that we have. Makivik and Air Inuit, our subsidiary, we invested a great deal on infrastructure, and these are private funds in order to build warehouses to assist the stores for storing and also for freezers. So it's difficult for us because a lot of our own personal private funds are being used to improve our region, but we need a lot of aid from the federal government. So this is one of the recommendations that we have, which is that we need to invest in our infrastructure. So you're telling us that you don't really have any federal aid and that it's not a type of support that will enable you to build in Nunavik. What I'm saying is that we have reached a point where our population has increased, and most of the infrastructures were paid for by Makivik, the arenas, the community centers, and other centers, Ski-Doo shops, and all of that infrastructure was paid for by Makivik. with the assistance of Air Inuit and its subsidiaries. So we're not, the demand is increasing and is not being met. So we need help from all our partners, the federal government, the provincial government, in order to be able to fill the current demand. When we talk about food insecurity, what do you observe in Nunavik right now? As President Obed mentioned, we have major restrictions in terms of local production. If we could provide, according to the demand, for example, a lot of seafood, we have scallops and mussels, and we have char and fish, but we do not have, well, but there are a lot of restrictions and challenges with regard to food inspection and government regulations that restrict us from being able to make use of the resources that exist locally and in the region in order to accommodate by using foods that are healthy and that could provide communities with foods that could be very good for them instead of buying cheeseburgers and fries. People would be able to buy or catch food. Thank you.
Madam, Ms. Blaney, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So if, first of all, thank you to all the witnesses, but if I could come back to you, Mr. Alaku, and I hope I pronounced your name somewhere near, you talked in your testimony to us about the fact that the Inuit population is growing and that wildlife monitoring and management is becoming increasingly important with all of the changes and the populations there going down as well. I'm just wondering if you could talk about what that would look like and what kind of resources are required to do that work.
So thank you very much for that. We are being restricted more and more on our abilities to harvest. I'll take the example of polar bears. Polar bears are a great source of healthy food for our community, but we are at a clash with scientists. We're saying that polar bear populations are healthy, and then the trends that are projected that polar bears are not healthy. We're tremendously restricted on our beluga quotas, and these are a source of tremendous healthy food. Belugas are known to have selenium that combat mercury levels, and right now we are going towards a very restrictive caribou harvest going forward, knowing that the Leaf River herd is the only herd that we are harvesting of. As President Lamp had mentioned, the George River herd is in a critical state, and we do not wish for the Leaf River herd to go in that same direction. We will need to safeguard that herd. We will need to maybe even look at caribou herding, much like they do in Scandinavia. But we are very restricted in terms of our ability to harvest.
Thank you. That's helpful. Mr. Ituluk, could you talk to that as well, just about what sort of resources you need? What are the concerns around wildlife monitoring and management? And you just talked as well about the decline in the animals and with climate change. And I'm just wondering, how are all of those things coming together and the changing migration? What is it that would help look at that and support more sustainability in your area?
Thank you. As you know, all the herds in North America, all of them in decline this year and last year and year before. And in order to increase the harvest level, the government have to do a survey every animal that is on what you call it, on the total allowable harvest. And sometimes the survey doesn't come out too well, and a lot of things to take it into consideration as is weather hamper the survey, and anything is contributed to the decline of any animal, like a man-made anything that man encounter is the biggest problem when they changed the migration of a caribou, and these kind of things that we face daily, yearly, every day up here, and also the in lack of presence of federal government like food inspectors. There's a lot of wildlife that we can trade with the other people, but governments say it's not inspected by the proper system. It hamper our trade quite well up here in the north, and the most of the our diet, like caribou, narwhal, and polar bear. In some communities, polar bear quota is almost down to zero. And, these kind of things that we face every day. Otherwise, they would help the nutrition in the north. And these are our main diet. And anything that is man encounter is the biggest problem up here in the north. And hopefully the population of any animals will increase again over time, but it takes longer now than previous years because of a man encounter with the wildlife. The migration pattern changes a lot to do with the declining of any animal.
So thank you very much for that remarkable testimony from all of our witnesses. It's almost tragic that we have to suspend now, actually adjourn this meeting, but I think there's an excellent suggestion from Ms. Jones, and we'll talk about inviting you all back. We're taking our, looks like we'll be on a bit of a break now for a few weeks, but to Mr. Alaku, to Mr. Lamb, to Mr. Iduluk, thank you all so much. Thank you to our members of our committee and those who sat in, and to all of our staff. I hope you have an excellent holiday season and a Merry Christmas if you're celebrating. And we'll see you all, including our witnesses, I hope, in the new year. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.